In the world we live in, some people seem to think that they are better than other people. These people seem to believe that the world is split into different groups of people, called races. Some of these groups believe that they are more or less superior to other groups. For example, in the most common form of racism we can think of, day in, day out, black people are called rude words and often hurt by their white counterparts. When this occurs, and a certain group of people are treated unfairly compared to the people who mistreat them, it's called racism. Racism is a form of discrimination. Discrimination is where people, or some people, are treated badly or goodly based on a certain perceived feature of the person or those peoples.
A report called Kids on Race, The Hidden Picture. It's a project over a year in the making. Now, race relations is one of the most explosive issues in this country, and for many adults, the most taboo to talk about with kids. But what a lot of adults don't realize is that kids, even as young as 6 years old, are already talking about or thinking about race. And what they say is making friends with kids of other races is hard and only gets harder as they grow up. We teamed up with renowned child psychologist Dr. Melanie Killen to scientifically measure children's attitudes on race. Take a look at this. Dr. Killen and her team showed 6-year-old children this picture and asked them questions like, what's happening here? Are these children friends, and would their parents want them to be friends? The picture is designed to be ambiguous. What's happening is in the eye of the beholder. Then they showed them this picture and asked the same question. Now, the only difference in the pictures, the race of the children was flipped. Both white and African-American children were tested, and in addition to the 6-year-olds, the psychologist showed a similar set of pictures to 13-year-olds. At our request, they also asked kids open-ended questions about race to try to understand how it plays into their own lives. The responses were raw. Some of the experiences they described were frankly shocking. This is the reality of what kids see, hear, and think about race. Listen.
If you have the same skin, you can play together, but if you don't have the same skin, you can't play together.
So why can't you play together if you have different color skin?
Because your mom might not want you to play with that friend.
It's okay to tell people that they can't be your friend because of the color of their skin?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that okay?
Because your mom will not want them to be the same, be a different color friends.
Do you think it'd be easy for a kid to convince his parents that it would be okay to have other types of people over? Why not?
Probably because you might get in trouble.
Why would a parent want you to get in trouble if you wanted someone to come over to your house who was a different skin color?
Probably because they don't allow.
Why not? Why would some parents not allow other skin-colored kids to come over?
Probably because they might not like that skin color.
Preschool teachers show signs of racial bias when disciplining students, according to a new study. The Yale Child Study Center tested 135 people, mostly teachers who had worked directly with young children. To get an accurate reading, they kept the true nature of the study a secret. They used eye scanning technology to track the gaze of teachers looking specifically for bad behavior in videos of children who were really just actors. The results found teachers spent the longest time looking at black boys. Lead researcher Walter Gilliam said, quote, "If you look for something in one place, that's the only place you can typically find it." Researchers also found black teachers held black students to a higher standard of behavior than white teachers, and another test suggested teachers had trouble empathizing with a student's family struggles if the child was of a different race. Gilliam and his team eventually came clean and gave the teachers the option of withdrawing their data and proof of bias, but as NPR reported, only one did. For Newsbeat Social, I'm Chad Carter.
Hit the bestseller list. We were all reading it then and talking about it. The 20 years have not been kind in terms of race relations in this country.
No, it really hasn't been a good period. It's interesting because if you are as old as I am, someone
or
born,
older.
born in the 50s,
right.
You can look back to the days of Jim Crow in the 50s and say, of course we've come forward. But if you look at the last 20 years, there's been a lot of regression, whether that's the anti-affirmative action backlash or the collapse of the economy in 2008 and the impact on communities of color, or just the continuing segregation, in some places increasing segregation of schools. There's a lot that we have not been able to fix.
I know, and what you call it hyper-segregation, that's what we have now, where it's
Yes.
not even a 60-40, it's like a 90-10
Exactly.
breakdown.
In many places, Black and Latino students are going to schools where there are less than 10% white students present.
So they are still sitting together in the cafeteria. Talk to us about what that's like in 2018. Why are they still sitting together?
Well, I think if you look at the places where young people of color and white students are going to school together, it tends to be high schools in suburban communities or perhaps in colleges and universities. Those are often the most diverse learning environments for young people of color and white students to come together, is at the college level. And if you think about that, let's imagine they're in college together. Most of them have come from neighborhoods where they've had limited opportunity to engage with one another. They've been exposed to
Because of the hyper-segregation.
Exactly.
They haven't seen each other before
Yes,
much.
because of the hypersegregation, they haven't had much close interaction, and we all are getting misinformation about people different from ourselves. And so when kids come together in those places where they do, their interactions are often being influenced by stereotypes, by misinformation, by distorted information, leading to awkwardness, sometimes hostility, but sometimes not even hostility, sometimes just I'm uncomfortable with what's unfamiliar, and therefore I stick with what I know.
Right.